It's a beautiful Wednesday morning here in the city of Ibadan, southwestern part of Nigeria. This is AM Life. My name is Adiola Adegoke.
And I am Olajumoke Babalola. Thank you for joining us. Today, like Jola said, it's a cool morning in Ibadan, your state, West Africa. Well, of course, we do believe it's a wonderful time of the day wherever you're watching us from. But we're promising you're going to enjoy every bit of today's program. It is AM Live. Thank you for joining us again.
Yes, thanks for joining us. If you've been listening to the news, watching TV, you realize that in the past few weeks, Nigerians, Africans have been making history in the world as it is. Just recently, the Nigerian was honored in the United Kingdom with the UBE award or something like that, Imafidion, and of course she has received lots of accolades from Nigerians and Africans generally. But again, there is another one happening. The United Nations is celebrating the Peacekeeping Day. The United Nations Peacekeeping Day will be marked at the United Nations headquarters today, May 24. And while the United Nations is marking that day at its headquarters, they will be honoring two Nigerian fallen peacekeepers named
military, police officials, and civilian personnel who lost their lives defending the cause of peace across the world. But the UN headquarters particularly will be celebrating these people today, May 24th. And of course, like Jola said, two Nigerians will be recognized: Commodore Christopher Ademu Abu, and of course late Sergeant Mayhem Norbert. We should also mention that late Commodore Christopher Ademu Abu served with the United Nations Multi-Dimensional Integrated Stabilization Mission in Mali, and late Police Sergeant Mayhem Norbert was deployed with the United Nations mission in Liberia. And of course, well, it's important that we do not forget the likes of people like this. What with Nigeria being the 14th largest contributor of military personnel to the UN peacekeeping effort across the world. While we mark every year, in January, we celebrate the lives of our heroes, but across the world, we're remembering the people who, not on their soil, but outside of the shores of their country, are laying down their lives, protecting peace, protecting the lives of others, and working for peace. So yes, it's a good one, Nigerians, amongst those people. We're not forgetting their labors of love, not just the ones fought on the soil of Nigeria.
Their lives in the cause of peace, and to also pay tribute to all men and women who have served and continue to serve in UN peacekeeping operation for their high level of professionalism, dedication, and courage. Of course, the world is grateful for the efforts of men and women who, despite all odds, are trying to maintain peace and order in the country. And of course, we will never forget their labor of love, and as much as we can, we will try to appreciate their labor of love. But away from that, also happening, it's also a big one happening in Africa. For the first time, the World Health Organization is having a first African Director General. Is an Ethiopian named Tedros Ghebreyesus. I hope I did pronounce that right. But the major news is that for the first time, the World Health Organization is having a first African Director General.
Well, which is again further added to the African cap as a very beautiful one that Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, who is a former Ethiopian health minister between 2005 and 2012, competed with five other health ministers from across the world. But of course, at the final stages, he fought it with Britain's Dr. David Nabarro and Pakistan Sania Nishta. And of course, after a much fought electoral process at the World Health Assembly in Geneva, the Ethiopian minister, former health minister, did emerge the WHO Director General, being the first African to emerge the leadership of this office. And of course, well, again, his records has it that he's done so well for Ethiopia. It did fair enough for Ethiopia and its country, which is his home country. And of course, these efforts were recognized, were part of the things recognized at the election, which again helped him, aided his emergence as the Director General of WHO, which is the health organization across the world responsible for responses to epidemic, and of course developing vaccines and therapies that should and of course are available to everyone across the world. And in a time like this, Dr. Ghebreyesus will be facing a lot of challenges. There were lots of health challenges across the world that he'll have to work hard to overcome, to achieve a feat over. But again, what Africans are doing well, like you said.
Well, and just to mention some of his track records, he helped strengthen health system and train community-based female health workers to expand reproductive and maternal health in Ethiopia, which included family planning services. And well, this is part of the major thing that the World Health Organization is so particular about at this time, and a championing unwavering support for girls and women, and helping the world at large to understand the need to protect the health of women and children respectively. And we do hope that our doctor from Ethiopia, Dr. Tedros, wouldn't fall short of the belief and the trust that everyone has put in him. And there have been congratulations from all across the health sphere around the world. And there have been testimonies, people actually saying they look forward to him doing so much more. We do expect that he would also do many more wonderful things, because for me it's to see that an African in science, this is an area where we seem not to be doing so well. We've not really been covering science and technology as it is, but to now know that the Director General of the World Health Organization is an African, and it's something to be proud of, and we do expect that he do wonderful work.
Of course, there's so much expectations. What will, of course, again, the outbreak of the Ebola virus in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and of course several other epidemics across Africa, and of course beyond it. We're hoping that, yes, in this time would be able to win the fight against this virus in Africa and the rest, and of course several other health challenges across the world. But again, the much every other health ministers across the country, across countries in the world can do is to work with the new WHO Director General towards achieving a strong health status in the world. It isn't just his responsibility or the responsibility of the WHO, but that everyone across the world will find their stake towards helping for a sustained health status for everyone in the world in a time like this.
Okay, well, there's so much to say, and of course there are still many more big stories, but we'll take a break and we'll be back with more stories after this time out.
Thank you very much for staying with us. The program is still AM Live, and just before we went on that break, we were looking at the several achievements of Africans. Of course, we mentioned the fact that the UN will be recognizing 2 Nigerians and late heroes who fell in keeping the peace of the world intact amongst the 117 other persons who will be accorded respect today. And we also looked at the fact that WHO has a new Director General, which is its first African. But away from that, now to the United Kingdom, particularly the Manchester attack, which happened late Monday evening around 10:33 p.m., where a suspected terrorist, as it were, detonated an explosive that has left 22 people dead and 59 persons in critical condition still at the hospital. But of course, there's a latest development which Adela would be mentioning around the attack.
Oh, well, just yesterday, the attacker has been named. His name is Salman Abedi. Well, Salman Abedi was believed to have even taken a picture with the police officers before going on to do before going on to perpetrate the evil which he did perpetrate that day. He was born in Manchester to parents of Libyan descent, and he was a former student of Salford University. And well, there have been indications that he was not acting alone. An investigation is still ongoing to know the group he works with. ISIS has claimed the attack, has claimed to have been behind the attack, but again, there have been investigations going on to find out if there are still a number of people out there trying to perpetrate same evil. But it is the appalling thing is that this is an attack targeted at young people, and to realize that the level of security in the United Kingdom seems to be declining as the day goes by, with the elections coming up very soon, and security seems the terror threat level has increased in the UK, and there's no controversy about it. People are scared. I was speaking to some people in the United Kingdom, and everyone is scared of getting out of their homes. A friend was telling me that he never thought he would see this day when people will be scared of opening their doors, because you never know what is coming out next. And well, our heart goes out to the people who lost their loved ones in that attack, and for those who are injured, we do hope that they recover quickly, and for the missing people, we hope that they return home, at least, because some people are missing, just to put the mind of their relatives at rest. It's one thing to know that the person is gone. It's one thing for you to be the part when you're unsure, that is the worst part, when you have to wait and keep hoping. So we do hope that people return home, and that the world knows peace. The thing is, global terrorism, as much as we keep trying to fight it, it keeps increasing by the day, and it's sad that the people can wake up in their houses and go out like we all do. We go out, seek for daily bread, and everybody goes out and say, "Oh, see you later in the day," and you never know if you're going to return. It's just sad that the world has to come to a stage where where people no longer die of natural occurrences, where you don't know if you're going to get blown up. We might, as much as we might say, oh, Nigeria is immune to that, but again, we know that Nigeria is not immune.
We have our own.
In Maiduguri recently, there have been incessant attacks, and it's just like you never even know. It's more like the UK terror attack. Now you never know what is going to happen in that, especially in Maiduguri as it is. You never know. As much as there are military men trying to cope the situation, but we keep hearing of bomb blasts almost every other day, and we hope that it will come to a time when the world will know at least a little bit of peace as it is.
Honestly, and you know that, well, just to correspond the fact that we mentioned the UN will be celebrating its peacekeeping day today. We're asking that the world will know peace. But again, because you did mention the fact that even in Nigeria, we're going through the old insurgency, nowhere seems to be safe. The recent attacks in Maiduguri have been on university campuses, the particular university campus in Maiduguri, and of course back to the to Manchester now. While reading a bit profile of the young man who committed this heinous crime, it's unfortunate. While I do not try, I'm not simming or not wanting to sound judgmental, that he is actually from Manchester. The world is turning against its own. He should probably be in his he should be a young person.
He's 22.
So the likes of people within your age bracket were the same persons you went on to target. And of course, while again this question seems like it might never find an answer to why the same people want to turn against their own, it's unfortunate that we have this situation. But of course, as part of updates in the country, the Prime Minister, Theresa May, has launched the Operation Tempera in the state, and of course, soldiers have been deployed on street in race to foil further attacks, because there are fears that there might still be accomplices around who might carry out similar attacks. And of course, threat levels have been raised to critical, suggesting attack imminent. Well, again, you know, UK is just recovering from a terrorist attack, which happened a couple of weeks ago now. And again, we were seeing something similar happen. While the world is standing with the United Kingdom in a time like this, we're asking that everyone will lay down their sword, because we really never achieve anything through getting involved in terrorism. It doesn't achieve anything. Let's lay down our swords, let's sheath our swords, and of course allow for peace. Like Jola said, I had to go out to the people who have lost loved ones, and we're hoping that the 59 persons who are still in the hospitals, in different hospitals in the United Kingdom, will recuperate as soon as they can, and that no life is lost. But again, security consciousness is what's been built in the lives of everyone. You never really know what happens where you go. But yes, we're saying to the United Kingdom in a time like this, may the Lord be with you. We're asking that you remain strong. And to the rest of the world, we're asking that we would join the rest of our counterparts to allow for peace in your own little way. Like you never can imagine what a day without records of evil or wickedness would look like. But we could actually work around achieving that. To Manchester, I would say, well, our condolences, and we're praying that you would be strong. You will remain strong in such a time as this.
Yes, well, if we take a break and we'll be back to take you headlines from the dailies. Don't go away.
Many thanks for staying with us at Still AM Live, and now we're moving on to our morning brief segment where we'll look at headlines on the papers. But just before we do that, of course, we will not just continue without mentioning the fact that the world of journalism in Nigeria particularly lost one of its own, a correspondent with Channels Television.
Yes, well, it's a sad one, and we commiserate with Channels TV for losing one of their TV reporters, Mr. Chukuma Onekusi, who is a State House correspondent for Channels TV. He's been with Channels for a while, and he died. I think he died in the early hours of yesterday in an hospital in Abuja, and it's sad that the world of journalism as a whole in Nigeria has lost one great reporter. For some for some people is one of their best. I was reading comments about him online yesterday, and people were saying, "Oh, he's my second best. Is my best reporter." But again, we do hope that God give the family the fortitude to bear the loss, and our heart goes out to Channels TV at this time of mourning, and we do hope that the organization would remain strong, and we hope that the Nigerian the NUG, as it says, do not of course again also remain strong, and that we do not lose any member. We pray for long life for every one of us,
basically, and of course we're hoping that he would be honored. He started very as a young staff with Channels, and of course he stayed through.
It's been one of their oldest.
Yes. Again, well, I had to go out to the family, and we're hoping that family, friends, and of course Channels itself, the NUJ, would help his family in such a time like this. But so much around that, we will now look at headlines on the papers. And on the front page of the Punch newspaper this morning, the major headline is "Economy Shrinks Again, Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, LCCI," which is the Lagos Chamber of Commerce, see an industry, see recovery in third quarter. And the rider, Oshimbajo writes reps seeks $1.28 billion, 9 million euro loans. Pages 21 and 24 has more details. And just above the nameplate, Customs sees container with 440 rifles. You'll find more details on page 12. Away from that, Senate condemns rising rape cases, demands stiffer penalties. For more details, check page 7. It's too early to assess Buhari's performance. That's from the presidency. You also find details on page 9. Academics commend Nigerian Imafidon awarded MBE. That's a very wonderful one again, a Nigerian, 27-year-old Imafidon. You find more details on this news on page 12. Nigeria condemns Manchester bombing, death toll hits 23, and that's on page 9. Ifeanyi Uba's diversion of 11 billion naira, PMS punishable by death, DSS, and that's on page 7. Fake anti-graft supporters in government frustrating us, EFCC saying this, and you'll find more story on page 13. Adelike's family tackles Lautech over late former governor's autopsy. That's on page 11. Ogun probes lecturer pregnant students row. Pages 4 and 5 contain more details. Union shown shots as Air Force men invade varsity, beat students and lecturers. You also find more details on pages 4 and 5. And finally, on the back page of the Punch this morning, about Nigeria's crony capitalism. This is with Lekon Shote. You want to find out what it means by this, you check the back page, and that's the note from the front and back pages of the Punch this morning.
On the front page of the Guardian newspaper, economy begins slow recovery from recession. CBN retains rates, pursue exchange rates convergence. GDP report excites OPS, predicts recovery in quarter 2. Details of the story continues on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Custom intercepts 440 pump action rifles, orders at Lagos port. Agency denies handling cargo. Details also continues on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. James Bond star Roger Moore dies at 89. 22 killed, many injured in Manchester terrorist attack. Nigeria's economy remains under hostage by a few, says Pat Utomi. And this is Grandmaster with Dari Babarinsa, King Sonny Ade, and the Ophios option. That's the much from the front page of the Guardian newspaper.
And on to the inside pages of the Punch newspaper still. 3 die, 20 houses razed in Benue communal clash. Another PDP rep defect to APC. And still from within the news, Kaduna releases 2016 audited accounts. Angry Ekiti youth destroy filling stations over fuel scarcity. And finally, Aregbesola Gbajabiamila right of presidential system. That's the much from the news column.
Moving on to the inside page of the Guardian newspaper. Ekiti youths in violent protest against petroleum marketers. Family accuses hospital of opposing another autopsy on Adeleke. The Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority to audit Medview Airlines over EU ban. Buhari, Osibajo's aides, mourn Channels TV reporter Chukwuma. Amechi threatens to sue Wike over alleged $43 million fraud cultism. Moving on to Metro section. Police inspector, 2 others killed in Lagos Carnival. Masquerade, 6 persons dies in Eche Ani Festival. 1 killed as suspected cult members clash in Ondo. Bale abducted in Lekki as kidnappers demand 20 million naira ransom. That's the much from Metro section and the news column of the Guardian newspaper.
And on to the health-wise column of the Punch newspaper. WHO gets first African aid. Every patient deserves a second medical opinion. And finally, liver cirrhosis can be managed with detoxification. That's the much from health-wise.
Moving on to editorial. Withdrawal of refinery licenses. On later, African parents teaching girls to be gender slaves. On opinion, can Nigeria survive another century? This is a question asked by Dr. Sylvester Odion Akain. So, what if Buhari resigns? Abdulrazak Magaji asks. There seems to be a lot of question on the opinion column this morning. Bailouts for states and other matters. What budget is not saying? Oh, well, if you are one of the ardent readers of budgets, like I do, you should be finding out what budget is not revealing concerning bailouts for states and other matters. Resolving the power sector conundrum. That's the much from opinion, editorial, and later columns of the Guardian newspaper.
And on to similar columns from the Punch newspaper, from editorial. Power crisis. What next? Fashola, there's another question being asked the Minister of Power, Works and Housing. And on to Viewpoint. CBN and the Return of Animal Spirits by Uchenna Uwaleke. And finally, from Viewpoint, time to expedite action on electoral reform by Jide Ojo. That's the mod from the Viewpoint and editorials this morning.
Moving on to Guardian Business. Why in Nigeria others should integrate entrepreneurship in industrialization strategies. Amechi seeks port reforms for more private sector involvement. Why National Assembly, I'll take that again. Why National Assembly's amendment of the Council for the Regulation of Freight Forwarding in Nigeria Act may fail. This is coming from Shitu, that's our Minister for Communication. CIBN, that's Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria. CIBN president charges risk managers on integrity. Energy storage, key to reliable solar power systems. Bank of Industry to leverage DMB's network for indirect lending. Plans to support over 30,000 entrepreneurs by 2019. Corporate Affairs Commission ends manual company registration in Abuja. UNIDO to support federal government's sustainable industrialization agenda. That's the much from Guardian Business for today.
And on to business and economy. Economy shrinks again. MAN, which is the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, seek recovery in third quarter. Allocations to federal government, state, local government dropped by 52 billion naira. Timely implementation of the economic recovery growth, I take the report again. Timely implementation of the economic recovery and growth plan will end recession, says CPN. MPC retains key rates. And on to capital market. Nigerian Stock Exchange records gains, highs real estate growth. And on to money. Nigeria's debt to climb to 24.1% of GDP by 2018. And this is from the International Monetary Fund. CBN to sell dollars to clear demand backlog. And still from money, fraud indication of risk management failure by Ajibola. And finally, on the financial interview column, retail sector worst hit by economic recession. This is by Ebata, who is president of Bervitson Retail Group. is saying that retail sector worst hit by economic recession, which is just true. That's the note from that column.
Okay, moving on to Guardian Tech. African countries restate commitments to digital migration. ISAN, that's the Information Security Society of Africa and Nigeria, cautions Nigerians against paying for ransomware attacks. Signal Alliance ecosystem raise fresh awareness. Nigerian Chinese firm to site phone assembly plant in Southeast. Glo claim highest data penetration in Q1. And moving on to health news. Traffic pollution linked to premature aging, asthma. Children are more vulnerable to DNA damage caused by vehicle exhaust. Exposure to harmful particles can stop us from getting good night's sleep. How being active improves balance, strengths ability to complete day-to-day tasks in more than 20 chronic disorders. Fruit juice wreaks havoc on baby weight, heart, and gums. Natural remedies for high cholesterol levels. That's much from Health News and Guardian Tech.
And finally, on Punch Sport, Violence LMC, which is a league management company, set to sanction Sunshine. Amoro, that's the Shooting Stars coach, under pressure to save 3SC from relegation. Mourinho condemns Manchester bomb attack. Organizers make Okpepe clarification. And still on sports, finally on sport actually, I took the airline route not quite long. Amoro's working hard to save 3SC from relegation. That's the mod from Punch Sport.
On Guardian Sports, Eagles begin training. Injury knocks Balogun out of South Africa game. Zenith Tennis serves off at Ikoyi Club. Okpepe race organizers deny getting 70 million naira from Edo State. That's the much from Guardian Sports for today, and that's basically the much we'll be taking from our newspapers for this morning. We'll take a break to allow for morning news, after which AM Live will continue shortly. Don't go away.
I am alive today, Baba. It's by your grace. I woke up this morning. It's by your grace. Those people that died today, I am no better than them. Those people in the mortuary, I am no cooler than them. Good morning,
good morning, Jesus.
Oh, Baba.
Good morning,
Oh,
good morning, Jesus. I am aware.
I am aware you are great.
Good morning, Jesus.
Baba.
Good morning,
I'm gonna put your tongue.
Thank you, Jesus, for giving me a brand
For giving me a brand new day.
Good morning,
Oh,
good morning, Jesus.
good morning, Lord.
Good morning,
Good morning, Lord.
where you are. Good morning, Jesus.
Oh, Baba.
Good morning, Jesus.
Shima Robin.
Thank you, Jesus, for giving me a brand new day.
I am alive today, Baba. It's by your grace. I woke up this morning. It's by your grace. Those people that died today, I am no better than them. Those people in the mortuary, I am no cooler than them. Good morning,
Good morning, Jesus.
oh Baba.
Good morning,
Onyemam Jemodum.
good morning, Jesus. I am aware.
I am aware you are great.
Good morning, Jesus.
Baba.
Good morning,
I'm gonna put your tongue.
thank you, Jesus, for giving me a brand
For giving me a brand new day.
Good morning,
Oh,
good morning, Jesus.
good morning, Lord.
Good morning,
Good morning, Lord.
where you are. Good morning, Jesus.
Oh, Baba.
Good morning, Jesus.
Shima Robin.
Thank you, Jesus, for giving me a brand new day.
I am alive today, Baba. It's by your grace. I woke up this morning. It's by your grace. Those people that died today.
morning and welcome to Morning News from New Frontiers Television. My name is Temitope Oladipo. The acting president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, will declare open the 2017 National Mining Summit, organized in collaboration with the COSMIN West Africa in the International Conference, Abuja, from June 13 to 15. The conference is expected to bring together stakeholders from the Nigeria and the international mining sector respectively, the business community and other sectors. According to a statement issued and signed by the organizer, Jamie Pearson, the exhibition, which will run for 2 days, will provide opportunities to exhibit across the construction and solid minerals industries. He noted that the conference, which will run alongside the exhibition, will also focus on construction, with technical sessions held by exhibitors, leading brands, and more general sessions, including insurance of construction programs and financial projects. Gunmen suspected to be militants who stormed the palace of a traditional ruler in Ebute-Lekki community, Lagos, whisking away the 75-year-old Salino Karim, have demanded 20 million naira ransom for his release. This is just as an inspector and 3 others were killed in a communal clash that occurred between Ilagbo and Oriyomi community youth during the annual Kilajolo festival. 16 houses, including vehicles and motorcycles, were burnt by rampaging youths in the same area. Information revealed that the kidnappers, who invaded the community at about 2 a.m. through the waterways, announced their presence with sporadic shootings. Cattle dealers, butchers, and other stakeholders at Okwoba Abattoir in Agege, Lagos State, have threatened to ensure that no cattle were brought to Lagos State until the Lagos State government compensated them for the Sunday demolition of the abattoir. The stakeholders under the aegis of Cattle Dealers Association of Nigeria, United Butchers Association, and the Miyetti Allah Cow Dealers Association of Nigeria also accused the government of reneging on the earlier agreement on the modality for the demolition of shanties at the market. The Sheriki Fulani and leader of the market, Alhaji Bello Dan Babufa, told journalists that he was surprised that the state government went beyond the agreement they had and demolished public toilets and mosques, which were inspected and approved by the government. The Assistant Secretary of the Cattle Dealer Association of Nigeria, Alhaji Bashiru Alami, said over 24 toilets were demolished, which cost 20 million naira to construct. The presidency had said it was too early for anybody to attempt to assess the performance of President Muhammadu Buhari. It said the report card of the present administration could not be prepared when it was just midway into its 4-year term. The special advisor to the president on media and publicity, Mr. Femi Adesina, said this at the press briefing to mark the 2nd anniversary of Buhari administration at the presidential villa, Abuja. Adesina was joined at the briefing by the senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity, Garba Shehu, and the SSA to the acting president on media and publicity, Laolua Konde. The presidential spokesman said it would be wrong for anybody to assess the government based on its first 2 years in office and turn a verdict that it had succeeded or failed. We bring you more stories after this timeout. Please stay with us. Glad to have you back. 5 months after it seized over 661 pump-action rifles, the Tin Can Island Command of Nigerian Customs Service, NCS, on Tuesday discovered another container filled with 440 guns of various sizes and design imported into the country. The Assistant Controller General of Customs, Monday Abuse, who briefed journalists while displaying some of the rifles, said the offensive cargo was shipped into the Nigeria from Turkey. Abwe, who refused to name the name of the importer for security reasons, said a suspect had been arrested in connection with the importation. The custom area controller gave the breakdown of the seizures as follows: 100 pieces of Black Tornado single barrel rifle, 70 pieces Silver Magnum single barrel rifles, 50 pieces of auto pump action rifles, 215 pieces of black single barrel rifle, 164 pieces of rifle nozzles, 103 pieces of arm ribs, 110 pieces of trigger. The Department of State Services has accused businessman and Chief Executive Officer of Capital Oil and Gas Limited, Ifeanyi Ubah, of diverting about 80 million litres of petrol kept in its custody by the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC. The agency stated that Ubah shunned NNPC's repeated demand for the product estimated to worth 11 billion naira in order to cause artificial scarcity of the product. It stated that Ubah's action could plunge the country into widespread scarcity of PMS and economic chaos. According to the agency, the act amounted to economic sabotage punishable by death. There was stated that in a counter affidavit and written submission filed by the DSS in opposition to an application by Ubah, asking a High Court of the Federal Capital Territory in Jabi, Abuja, to set aside an order for his detention for 14 days. The DSS lawyer, Mr. G. Agbadua, told Justice Alilu that Ubah was plotting to plunge the nation into economic and social crisis by creating artificial scarcity of petroleum products. The Ministry of Communication has hinted that 2 telecommunication companies are currently considering a recall of retrenched staff. Speaking during a public hearing by the House of Representatives Ad hoc Committee investigating operational activities of telecom sector, which is chaired by Honorable Ahmed Abu, APC Niger, the permanent secretary in the ministry, Soni Echono, said efforts were underway to resolve the issue. The permanent secretary, who chaired the Interministerial Investigative Committee probing the sack in the telecom sector, said from the information available, 1 or 2 of the companies are trying to re-engage the sacked staffs. He said although only 3 companies were named in the petition received by the panel, they are invited all 8 companies operating in the industry, namely MTN, Glo, Etisalat, Airtel, Huawei, Ericsson, Natcom, and ZTE. The Emir of Kano State, Malam Muhammad Sanusi II, and the Sultan of Sokoto, Alhaji Saad Abubakar III, has said that for the country to come out of the economic recession, the federal and the state government should create massive job opportunities through investment in agriculture and entrepreneurship. They said this during the opening ceremony of the 2nd Kano Economic and Investment Summit with the theme Transforming the Economic of Kano, Turning Challenges into Opportunities in Kano State. The acting president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, who declared the summit, was represented by the Minister of Interior, Lieutenant General Abdulrahman Dambazau. Osinbajo affirmed that the summit was in line with the federal government's economic recovery agenda and its anti-corruption war. He held the Kano State government to avail itself of the recommendation that will be proposed at the end of the summit so as to galvanize the economic prospects of the state. Acting President Yemi Osinbajo has written the National Assembly requesting for the legislature consideration and approval to accommodate funding for both the Development Bank of Nigeria, DBN, and the second tranche of the Fund for Agricultural Finance in Nigeria, FAFIN-2, in the 2016 to 2018 external borrowing plan of the federal government. Although Osinbajo's letter was not read out in the floor of the Senate on Tuesday, in the correspondence read at plenary by the Speaker of the House, Honorable Yakubu Dogara, the acting president said that the DBN is a multi-donor supported bank approved by the previous administration, with financing agreement executed on February 25, 2015. He, however, explained that a sum of $1.28 billion earmarked for the development finance institution was inadvertently omitted in 2014 to 2016 external borrowing plan, which was approved by the National Assembly. In the letter, the acting president said the initial phase of the project had been fully disbursed, while the donor was ready to provide another tranche of €9 million for FAFIN-2. The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has expressed concern over the borrowing activities of the federal government, saying the pace of government's borrowing has exceeded the target for the 2017 fiscal year. The CBN position came along with its Monetary Policy Committee MPC decision at the end of the second quarter 2017 meeting to retain all its key policy rates, citing challenges weighing down the domestic economy and uncertainties in the global environment. The decision also followed announcements by the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, that the nation's economy contracted for the fifth consecutive quarter as a real gross domestic product (GDP) declined by 0.52% in the first quarter of 2017. The committee was concerned that the credit to government continued to outpace the program target of 33.12% for fiscal year of 2017, while credit to the private sector declined considerably far below the program target of 14.88%. That ends the morning news for today. Thanks for joining us. AM Live continues shortly. Please stay with us.
to get the country out of recession, the federal government in 2016 launched the social intervention programs to help alleviate poverty and, of course, to listen in a bit of listening to the plight of Nigerians. Some of the social intervention programs include the homegrown school feeding program for primary school pupils, the conditional cash transfer to the extremely poor, the Empower Volunteer Corps 500,000 jobs intervention scheme for university graduates, and government enterprise and empowerment program. All these have been were launched in 2016, and they've been in some of it have been is ongoing, and the federal government is still planning to implement many more of those social intervention programs. So today on the show, we'll be doing a review of some of those programs. How well is it working? What are the criteria? Is the federal government really doing much to help alleviate poverty in the country as it is? But on the show, we won't be having the discussion alone. On the show, we have our guest, who is an analyst. He has always been here on the show. He's a public analyst, and he is a journalist. Once a journalist, always a journalist. So Mr. Paul Pius, you're welcome to the studios.
Thank you very much for coming.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We should also add that he is a correspondent with the Nigerian Baptist, which is a Baptist official magazine, and of course, as a journalist, is an all-round journalist. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah, just as Jola rolled out, we're looking at the social intervention program of the federal government, which was launched May 29, 2016 by President Muhammadu Buhari. And of course, in his words, he says that it's in the bid to lift many from poverty. He says it's to create opportunity for people to fend themselves. And according to the words of the president, it's by far, I quote, by far the most ambitious social protection program in our history. Now, if you looked at 2016, 2017, of course, it's just a couple of months. From May 29, it's going to be a year, May 29, that's next Monday. When you look at the implementation of all of these programs and how it has helped, if it has at all, to lift Nigerians out of poverty. We're in how many months of recession? A couple of months of recession now. Would you say that the social intervention program has indeed fulfilled the purpose for which it was launched in the first instance?
No, there is something I've noticed that both of you said. I was thinking that the program was actually launched in 2015 during the release, the presidential speech. But be that as it may, you will realize that it came to a point that it's like the whole thing went into plateau. Nothing was actually said about it until March this year. That for me, it's more or less as the program was actually relaunched. You also realize that there were who's and cries about some of the promises that were made as regard the social intervention program. You recall that until people started raising a lot of agitations about the promises made to the youths, the graduating students. Yeah. That's when we started seeing the effect. And from what I know, maybe I've only had it for about 1 or 2 months. I'm not sure if it's consistent thereafter. The challenge I have with it is a good initiative. I like to quote the statement that was originally made by the vice president, the acting president now, that it is to bring down the level of poverty. We know that there is nothing we can do to alleviate poverty, to eradicate poverty, but it's to bring down the level. But what I have discovered is that most of these programs, as good intention as they are, the human factors always come to play. The human factors, on both ends, some person will look for the loophole, maybe the people on the opposing side, just to talk down the program. The other factor is sometimes it's just mere propaganda. We have not really seen the real work. So, in a nutshell, I've not seen the effect thus far. Or let me say, not to the level I expected, not to the level it was said that it was going to be. I understand that recently they come up with the issue of giving 30,000 stipend to a group of people. So let's see how far that can go. The other aspect of it is that we need to critically look at. I'm not always excited about policies. I'm not always excited about bringing up new things to excite people. I'm much more interested in how to sustain it. What exactly are they doing to sustain that? And so I believe that's the reason why it has not yielded much success as expected.
But while you were actually talking, Sir Jola, you mentioned the fact that for you, you do not think that, it doesn't seem to you like it actually lifted people out of poverty, just as they said it was going to do. It hasn't raised people, particularly the graduates, to the level you wished it would lift them to. If I would ask, what are the indices that you have seen that doesn't portend the old scheme as having fulfilled achieved the purpose for which it was launched?
Now, let me start. There's something I've always had in mind. I don't know how Nigeria can, our governments, the governance, the democracy can mature to that level. There's a fact that we shouldn't take away, that governance is a continuum. You will recall that under Goodluck Jonathan, there was a program, as if You Win Now. I think they started
yes,
that.
You Win.
You Win is a kind of social intervention program. It's a kind of SIPS. It is. But you know, we have a way of, once it's not your party, once it's not coming directly from you have a way of pushing it aside. And I felt that You Win was actually, was getting ground because there was a system that was set in place to check. You are not just giving money. People have to present proposals.
Yeah.
They are asked to, their brains are being taxed. They also have to bring their ingenuity to place. They want to be sure of what you want to do. I know of one or two persons who got some millions. At least somebody very close to me. I wouldn't want to say that public, but I went to bless the company he was starting, by the money he won through the You Win. So I know a group of people like that, and I'm telling you, the truth of the matter is that that person, take for instance now, got that contract on the basis of wanted to start the block industry. The challenges of block industry came to be, and he's not striving at easy, but the money he has made, he has been able to diversify. I know one or two other chains of business. He's not doing any other job again. He's actually establishing himself, and there are people being employed. I still went to something he just started recently. He has about 2 members of staff working with a new company for about, maybe he started in February. You understand what I'm saying? Now, the money he got there from you is a produce, is what I've been diversified into that. Now, this is what I feel that some of the times the government should come to the reality. This thing is working, let's push it further. Whether or not it started for me, it does not matter. So the indices of trying to strike a point or to rubbish what already is working is one of the reasons why these things cannot work. And two, we all know that judging by our economy, if you give somebody, if you are paying somebody 30,000 on a monthly basis, if you don't have something that person is actually doing with that money, what to eat, you will discover that it's more or less that you are just wasting your money. So these things, my own concern is, what are the policies on ground? What are the machineries in place? What are the things driving this? How are we checking this? How are we checking the fact that we are doing this to reduce the level of what's it called now, poverty in the country? So what exactly are we putting in place to ensure that these people are not permanently dependent on these monthly stipends?
Okay, taking from the first of the social intervention programs, which seems to be important to me, because for me, I believe that once you train a child, you're training the future of a country, and we should pay attention to the children more than we pay attention to some irrelevancies that we spend money on. The federal government did promise that they will be feeding children in primary schools, are giving them foods in schools. And so parents, as it is, parents no longer have to worry about how their children will feed because of the economic situation. But that was said in 2016. And just like you rightly said, most of those programs didn't start until 2017. And some of them didn't even start until, okay, we are still in the first half of the year, but at least some of them didn't start until March thereafter. But this program, this Feeding a Child program, didn't start until early this year. And it is just enacted in 3 states. as of now, it's just 3 states. Why is it difficult for the federal government to actually ensure that every pupil in the primary education gets access to this food, considering that we seem to be allocating millions of naira for this program every year? The 2016 budget has about 500 million naira allocated for this social intervention program, and just 3 states in the federation has access to giving their kids, their pupils, food in their schools daily.
Is it the first question I wanted to ask is how far would that help in salvaging the situation of the parents? I'm sure that if you are talking about feeding a child, you will only be talking about their break time. That child has to eat before he or she leaves home. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
If that child returns after school, she or he has to eat. And you know, that's just some of the reality I said we have not faced. Sincerely speaking, our problem is not feeding the child. The problem is creating an atmosphere where an average parent can adequately take care of their wards or their children, as the case may be. I think that is much more needed. Personally, you know that at some point, I don't know if I think Oyo State, I don't know if it's part of the state that I lost interest totally in that initiative. But I knew that there was a point that some other persons were already reading, there were insinuation to feeding the children during the school. There were a lot of risk where we are Nigerians. It's unfortunate, but that's the reality. The insinuations of maybe those children, there's something diabolical about it. And so that could even be possibly part of the reasons why some states have taken a back seat in ensuring that. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So I for one feel that it's not it. It's not it. We should look elsewhere.
Okay. If you're saying we should look elsewhere now, what kind of social intervention program then are we going to have that will cater for the needs of the children? They're like the most vulnerable part of the society.
Yeah.
What exactly will cater for their needs?
When we're growing up, we know the level of education. Okay. Now, I always tell people that I lost my parents. I lost my father when I was about to writing common entrance. In fact, we were to do mock when my father died. You know what that means? I recall that my mother then was this roadside fish seller. I don't know if you know these people that used to wear these what they call this aquatena. Like this thing they stay by the road, and she used to sell frozen fish. There were problems with the family. I'm from Edo State, and I'm from a part where if the man dies, they tell you that the woman is a problem. So my mother was kind of incarcerated for many months, if not years, for years. So I was practically left alone, and I was the last child. Where 5 others had to struggle for themselves. Now, I could still manage to go to school because it was not that there were interventions. In terms of the books, in terms of the payment, in terms of some other things, I cannot remember till the level of my university. I cannot remember having a sponsor, but I know I went to school. Attended secondary school, attended polytechnic, attended university. At first, second degree, I cannot remember having a sponsor. But you know, there was this system that makes it, if you are really serious as a student and you know what you want to get at, there was this system. The books were not too expensive. It was near free. You understand what I'm saying? That's what I think the federal government should look into, or the state government, as the case may be. We should look into making going to school so cheap as much as possible. I would not advocate free education because of the reality we are all facing. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
But I know that if they want to do it, it's just a matter of reducing some of these their overhead. Some of the overhead costs we have from some of these our government officials can comfortably cater for some of these things. I'm sure you know what is allotted for the budget for the Senate in the new budget. I don't know, but I'm telling you that can be stretched down to meet some other needs. But you see, leadership is about sacrifice. If these people are not coming to that level, it's not about now feeding them in school. What are they eating? How many food are they eating? I don't know if we're actually paying for food those days, but I know that we went to get food after during the break. We have our everybody will submit his plastic in front of and they will dish your food you will eat. I'm not sure we're paying for that. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I think we should look more into that.
You know, while of course the whole feeding of school pupils has its question marks, its issues around it, I still like us to look at the fact that out of the 5.5 million children that the program said it was going to set out to feed, just about 1,051,619 pupils are being fed or have been fed up until now. And it's supposed to be an idea under the National Homegrown School Feeding Program, meaning as you would feed them from homegrown product. Let's look at it in comparison with how much commitment we've made to agriculture. We're supposed to be a country that's diversified its economy. Let's look away from oil and the likes of it to generating revenue from economy from agriculture and the rest of it. Now, would you say that the government looked ahead to actually wanting to diversify the economy to whether or not feed the children from homegrown or to build its economy on agriculture, to sustain its economy on agriculture? Because it's in the news this morning, the president is saying that it's too early to begin to assess the achievements, the performance of the president. Now, if you set out to feed pupils from homegrown products, did you actually set out to invest in agriculture such that you actually sustainably do this, and of course your economy is sustained on agriculture?
I feel that you have in a way answered your question. Nigeria will not until we start looking the way of agriculture. We may still have a lot of things to grapple with economically. We have depended too much on oil. We have depended too much on all other means. As at now, if not 85% of the rice we eat is still being imported. That should be a concern. When you are privileged to travel around the country, you will know that we have enough spaces for agriculture.
Exactly.
I don't know how true, but I've heard about this, about Afe Babalola University, that everything that is consumed within that university is actually produced. I am telling you that even if students are not paying their school fees well, they are not paying regularly, that university has what it takes to sustain itself. I don't know if you understand, they have enough. Now we are saying everything within. There is a likelihood a child is going on, he will take some food down to the parents. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Agriculture is something we still look into. Now, if that aspect is actually really looked into and we worked on it and built our economy around that, feeding the children across the state would not be a problem because we will have more than enough. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. And I'm telling you that it may not even be necessary because the parents will have more than enough to eat.
Okay, let's take a look at the conditional cash transfer scheme, which seems to be like a replicate of what we have in developed countries where there are social intervention programs for citizens. A payment of 5,000 naira monthly for adults. It's a stipend from the federal government, but again, federal government is looking at giving adults 5,000 naira to sustain themselves monthly. How well do you see this initiative?
For me, that's appalling. That's even insulting. Can 5,000 naira sustain you as a person on a monthly basis?
In respect to...
You see, there's something I've been afraid not to delve into. You will be shocked that some terrible humans will still be taking advantage of these policies. I don't know if you're aware that some millions were released in March. I'm not sure of the figure, maybe about 78 million thereabouts, towards SIP. I'm not definite, accurate about the figure. Now, are you aware that some people were recently interrogated if they were not even taken to the court on these IDPs? Some persons were in charge of the food meant for internally displaced. They are not internally displaced. What was meant for the internally displaced persons, some persons were still taking advantage of it. You see, that's why I said, you see, we need to be objective. Most of the time I've discovered that our people have a way of playing on our intelligence, possibly to pander their selfish ambition. Of course, to somebody who is desperately hungry and who have no hope and possibly have no plan for himself, if you give that person 5,000 on a monthly basis, he may still be doing baba care for you all the days of his life. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. When this man they call Amala Ibadan politics, Adedibu, were still alive, I recalled my days in Tribune. If you are broke as a journalist, just walking into that Molete house, you just get your ID card intact. If you can identify yourself as a journalist, you are sure, if you are not interested in eating amala anyway, but you are sure of going out with 5,000 at least. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. When that man died, I watched it live. I saw some women crying, weeping. Go and look at most of them. They don't have anything they are doing. They come there to eat in the morning and go back. If they are going maybe 1,000 naira per day, they are okay with that. Some people will be okay with that. But excuse me, you cannot alleviate poverty by so doing. You cannot. You will only make yourself popular as an individual. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So I think we should look beyond that. It won't go anywhere, and it cannot be sustained. That's just the reality. It can't be sustained. Excuse me, how many people have received the 5,000 naira? How many adults?
It's still ongoing, and the federal government has been able to roll out monies for some states. The first batch has been on, some has received the money. But talking about sustainability,
I'm waiting to receive the money.
No, you're not part of the job. You're not part of the money. But talking about sustainability, developed countries have social welfare scheme that take care of things like this. Yeah. So why should it be difficult to sustain in Nigeria?
They have a system. They have an ideologies. They have ideologies that drive those systems. It was one of these program we're discussing the politics of America and all those kind of a thing. And recently, I still had the reasons to discuss that in a place, maybe some days ago. And I said that somebody, if you're a Democrat, it doesn't matter what happens in that party. You see people born, they are born into that party. Somebody is born today. And the family is not just teaching him the family ideologies. They are also teaching him the ideology of a Democrat. The same thing with a Republican. So they grow up with it. And that's why you see somebody saying he's leaving Democrat to let heaven fall. The ideology is dreaming. And go and see, look at what Trump is doing today, whether you like it or not. I tell people that man simply appealed to an average African. I mean, an average American. An average American likes something that is I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. He appeals to that. And it's a philosophy that is driven from his own party. The same thing. We don't have that working system. That is what governs even their social, all these their social intervention program is there. If you get to school in America now, if you have children, especially if they are citizens of America, you don't have to bother your head about about the schooling of those children, at least to a very certain level. And you know, they are not just doing that. They have things that are actually catering for that. Not something we will say. The budget we still did, we are still talking about how much now? We are still talking about something that we are still going to borrow to
fund the budget.
To fund the budget.
And now, because you mentioned the budget, part of the social interventions program is the fact that there will be an education grant scheme which will encourage students studying sciences, technology, engineering, and maths. We're wondering where arts and humanities are. But besides that, and lay a foundation for human capital development for the next generation. In 2016, 500 billion naira was set aside, was allocated for this program. 2017, around 150 billion naira. Now, for education particularly, about 50 billion naira was allocated for education, and was supposed to, well, pull people out of poverty through this scheme and several other programs that the federal government is coming up with. How much seriousness do you see in the government's willingness to pull an average citizen out of poverty? One of the things they say helps individuals build stronger, especially in the human capital development, is in the fact that you have knowledge. Yeah. But how serious do you see the government in wanting to fight poverty to the last? Of course, we cannot elevate like you say, but look at the monies allocated to education and the monies allocated to fund these programs. How much seriousness do you see in that decision to develop an average Nigerian?
From what we have seen, from what we have known, it's not just these governments. For some years now, or if I wouldn't want to say for many years, we don't seem to have a government that is serious about education. And I'm not surprised by what I see in the budgets. Nigeria as a nation, the liberty that we have, most of the development that we have witnessed in various industries are products of education. I was doing an analysis with my editor-in-chief. He wrote an article and I was working on it. And so I raised a concern about, it was referring to this doyen of drama. That's Hubert Ogunde. Okay. And I was telling him that he referred to, he used the word, which I personally was not confused. I felt the man represented more than that. So I was refreshing his memory about the history of Nigerian film industry, which cannot be complete without Hubert Ogunde. Now, this is where I'm going. Hubert Ogunde was a police officer, but that man was educated. In fact, as a police officer, he started writing a script and sung a song. You could do that because there's something about education, it broadens your horizon. There's a way it makes you to see. If you see a fashion designer, take for instance, you see somebody who's educated in fashion designing and somebody who just learned it, you will see the difference. Even in the design. Take it or leave it. You know, there is a sense, there is something that education has done to the mind, to the view of that person, that it rubs on your approaches to issues. There's a fineness it brings to what you do. So if you are talking about, let me just conclude that of Hubert Ogunde. Now, at that level, we're talking about the time that most of the revolution that were started, especially in the West, came through that man's music. And it's a deep thought. It's a product of education. You have heard this song, Yoruba Ronu. Yoruba Ronu. Yo, yo, yo. Yoruba Ronu. It was sung by this man deliberately to challenge the Western. That most of the development we have witnessed as a nation has actually come from the Western leaders. We still talk about Awolowo. Of course, as far as I'm concerned, those people still have their flaws. You understand what I'm saying? But we still talk about them. We still talk about people like Ajayi Crowther. We still talk about, all those people. They are product of education. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So I felt that if we're going to develop in every industry, we cannot undermine the place of education. Forget about it. If any government is not looking towards that time, that government is not ready to work. But it's unfortunate. I don't know. Even you see policies governing, you see very unstable policy. We will come up with some system, 643, tomorrow morning, you just come up with another, we are just doing things anyhow.
Talking about education to help boost the education sector, the federal government also decided to start the Empower volunteer jobs process, where
I think that's the most prominent of this.
in fact, it seems to be the
Which
most
is in
laudable
36
in
all
all
of
of the
36
states, and they are paying these volunteers regularly. There's been no cost or no rancor as we used to have with our social intervention programs and the volunteers as we have. And but there's this clause about this scheme. As beautiful as it is, this scheme is just for a period of 2 years, after which the volunteers are expected to exit to economically viable jobs and business opportunity. How realistic is this with the current situation of the country?
For me, I feel that the federal government is still more pragmatic. I'm looking at the word there is a smart policy. There is a smart when it comes to policy driving. You know what smart is? Is it sustainable? Is it realistic? Is it the time bound and all those kind of things? I think that is brought to play in this matter, because it's not what they can be doing all the time. And truly, 2 years is enough for somebody whose financial pressure had been eased to an extent to sit down and look inward and find, I don't know if you understand, find something better that they can do, that he or she can do. For me, I think that is plausible and that is applaudable. That's my personal take. Okay. That if I have taken care of you for 2 years, and in the midst of that is with an ideology, is with an understanding that you have to, this thing will not continue within this space, I expect that you should find your fitting. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
Because you've been taught how to
because
fish.
You've been taught then you should go on. I think for me, that is quite reasonable. And whoever is serious, and I'm telling you, some people will take advantage of that moment to do better in the economy.
Okay. Now, one of the issues I like us to look at is the fact that besides the Empower project, which is split, balanced, very balanced, North 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory, several of the other programs, for instance, the homegrown feeding is just in Anambra, Ebonyi, Enugu, Osun, Oyo, about 7 states. The different programs are not spread across the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. And we're looking at these programs developing Nigerians. All of them, 58 million Nigerians are targeted within this program. How do we achieve a balanced growth development in all of the 36 states, inclusive of the Federal Capital Territory, when these programs in themselves have not spread across the states in Nigeria?
I think at the level, at that point, the state government will have to partner with the federal government. There has to be a conscious effort from the state government. You see, I may not be totally right, but you possibly may realize that some of the states that those things are actually working at maybe APC states. If you because it still boils down to our problem. My dream for this nation is there are projects on the road that are abandoned because an opposing government is coming in. And you know that this project is okay. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. So now, if an idea is good, you know that the federal government is limited in itself. That's just the truth. Even if they want to initiate it to the level they want, it may be easier in some states, considering what to be expended in those states, considering their geographical location, considering some other some other factors. Now, there could be other factors that may want to meditate against the viability of that program in other states. Now, the onus now lie on that other state to adopt it and look for a way to, I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, to lessen the body so that together all of us, we can move, it's for the overall goal of the nation. So that's what I feel that should be looked into. But that has to be done with an understanding. You are not also, we can also shy away from the fact that some states may be denied what others are getting because possibly they are opposing states. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
Very well
I don't know, sorry, let me just say this. This is it Maruna? What's the name? This new France... Macron, yes, Macron. France, you realize that when that man came into power as the president, you brought in an opposing somebody from opposing party as a prime minister.
Yeah.
Is what is real? I don't know. Until we get to that level. I don't know if you understand that. Whether you like it or not, that will quash whatever agitation that we want to come from the opposing party. The truth, I want to believe that you possibly felt that that's the best person to undo it. And he's a young man. Maybe that's why some people are already clamoring that we should have a 35. But we don't have that system that will make it to work. We don't have it yet. That's just the truth.
Well, we might just have it and not know that we have a system that can make it work. But that's all we'll be having on the show today. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for your time.
Well, the federal government is trying to do their best to ensure that they alleviate poverty as much as they can, and it is the work of you and I to ensure that those programs do actually work. Do not take an intervention program that is not meant for you. Allow it to trickle down to the people you're supposed to get to. If you're comfortable, let others who are less privileged in the society have access to these programs, and we towards a better Nigerian, towards a Nigerian where people will be comfortable in their homes and Nigerians can afford 3 square meals. We do hope that these intervention programs will, that's all that will be coming from.
Honestly, I couldn't agree with you any less. And just in the words of our guest, state governments also need to partner with the federal government towards allowing for a balanced Nigeria. Every Nigeria should enjoy the benefit of this government, irrespective of what party you belong to or what state you're from anyways. But of course, we'll follow on with the program and full implementation and let you know how much Nigerians are benefiting from this program. That's much we can take on EM Lab this morning. Again, our guest has been Mr. Pius Paul. It's wonderful having you. My name is Olajumoke Babalola. Thank you very much for watching. Have a wonderful day. God bless you.
And I am Adiola Riguke. Do enjoy the rest of your day.